Welcome everyone to the October 2025 SKHHP Executive Board meeting, and I will call this meeting to order at 1:04 p.m. And I will go ahead and call the roll. All right, Nancy Backus, absent. Dana Ralph, I know, so she is out, but we have Marina Hanson serving as alternate. Are you here, Marina?
I am here.
Thank you. City of Burien, Liz Steed and Anya Zupancic are both out today. Let me know, they won't be here. City of Covington, Christina Soltis.
I am here.
Welcome. City of Des Moines, Jean Oxiger. All right, absent. City of Federal Way, Brian Davis.
Here.
All right. Welcome. City of Maple Valley, Victoria Schroff.
Here.
Welcome. City of Normandy Park, Eric Zimmerman.
I'm present.
Thank you and welcome. City of Renton, Carmen Rivera. Alternate, James Alberson, Jr.
I am here.
Great. City of SeaTac, James Lovell.
I'm here.
Great. And City of Tukwila, Thomas McLeod, let me know he's not here. And we have our alternate, Dennis Martinez.
I'm here.
Welcome. And King County, Sonori Marshall, she let me know she wouldn't be here today. So we have Diane Glauber sitting in as alternate. Welcome, Diane. All right. And Dorsal, your hand is up.
Yeah, sorry for the interruption. I just want to flag that Councilmember Atkinser was here for a roll call. I've promoted him to panelist.
Thank you. Great. Perfect. So for those that just joined, the chair and the vice chair were not able to be here today, and so they asked at the last minute if I could chair the meeting. So that is what I'm doing. We usually have an introduction of our staff work group members and our representative from the advisory board. And I think today we have Jessica DeBarros. Are you here, Jessica?
Yes. Hello.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
So staff work group members would love if you came off camera and introduced yourself. Why don't we start with Laurel.
The camera's not working. This is Laurel Humphrey, City of Tukwila staff. Hello.
Thank you, Laurel. Angie.
Sorry, I'm here. As soon as I tried to hover over it, that other thing that pops up that has like news on it. Anyways, I'm sorry. Angie Mathias, Long Range Planning Manager for the City of Renton.
Thank you. Who else do we have? I know Evan, I saw you here. All right, I think Evan stepped away. Michaela.
Michaela Daffern, I'm with King County.
Thank you. Daphne.
Daphne Hernandez, Associate Long Range Planner for the City of Covington.
Thank you. Owen.
Sorry for the interruption. Owen had to step. He's staffing the planning counter here at City of Auburn today.
Okay, no worries. All right. Well, I think we're good. Thank you all. And we do have some future advisory board members present as well, but you will all get to meet them during our first agenda topic. So public comment. So this is the time on the agenda for public comment. If you would like to make a comment and are attending online, please use the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen. You will have 3 minutes to make your remarks. Please state your name and city of residence for the record. Dorsal, are there any folks in the audience with their hand up?
No one at this time.
Okay, and we did not receive any written public comment either. So moving on, approval of the August 15th, 2025 and September 19th, 2025 minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the August 15th, 2025 and September 19th, 2025 SKIP Executive Board meeting minutes?
I so move.
Second.
All right, Eric motioned, and who did the second?
Christina.
Thank you. With Christina seconding it. All in favor of adopting the August and September 2025 minutes, say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, the ayes have it. And moving on to agenda modifications. Are there any there are no agenda modifications, I will let you know. So moving on to board business, appointing members to the SKIP Advisory Board. So established in November 2021 to support the Executive Board, the SKIP Advisory Board is now approaching its first transition as several members conclude their initial term of service next month. To ensure the board keeps a full complement moving into 2026, SKIP staff conducted a recruitment process over the summer. We will now hear from SKIP Program Coordinator Dorsal Plants on the recruitment process and the current advisory board roster before considering a motion to appoint the new members. So Dorsal, take it away.
Thank you, Claire, and thank you, board. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to introduce you to the candidates that we've selected, and just briefly, what happened to my screen? Sorry, one second. Running too many IT things at once. Hopefully that is showing correctly.
Dorsal, I'm sorry, I accidentally, you went on mute. There you go. Okay, and your slides are showing.
Perfect. Thank you. Third time's the charm. All right. Good afternoon. I'm really excited to be here this afternoon to share just a brief overview of the recruitment process we initiated over the summer. I'd also just like to take a moment to acknowledge the significant milestone that our advisory board is hitting next month. The first terms of service for the original advisory board members is coming to an end. And so because of this transition and openings on the advisory board, SKIP staff began a recruitment process back in June of 2025. We received a total of 12 applications for either appointment or reappointment to the advisory board. And in August, an interview panel was convened, which consisted of the SKIP chair, Nancy Backus, SKIP vice chair, Dana Ralph, and Marie Arns, who currently serves on the SKIP advisory board. They had an opportunity to meet with each of the candidates and selected 5 candidates for appointment and 2 candidates for reappointment for your consideration today. Before I introduce the candidates for appointment today, I just wanted to provide the current makeup of the advisory board as we move into 2026. We have 8 members that will continue to serve next year, with our representatives from Verity Credit Union and HTC serving until January of 2027, and the remaining 6 advisory board members serving until January 2028. By appointing the slate of candidates today to begin their term in January, I believe we will have successfully staggered the terms on the advisory board, which should help enable us to maintain a continuity on the board as we continue to grow and transition over the years. Here are the candidates for your consideration today. Jessica DeBarros and Dr. Damaris Espinoza are currently serving on the advisory board and are seeking a reappointment for their second and final term on the advisory board. The remaining 5 candidates would be serving in their first term, and I believe the slate of candidates continues to reflect SKIP's growth over the last few years. And our advisory board will be supported by a healthy mix of developers, service providers, financial institutions, and people with both lived and living experience. Of course, we had a plethora of amazing candidates to consider for our advisory board. And while not selected, SKIP staff are recommending that we consider placing the multi-service center represented by Phoebe Anderson Klein in a standby or a bench candidate position. Multi-Service Center has been a great partner and was appointed to the advisory board back in November of 2021, but has had to recuse themselves every year since appointment due to the fact that Multi-Service Center has been applying to the Housing Capital Fund regularly. And so our hope is that while the advisory board continues to primarily work on the Housing Capital Fund evaluation and recommendation, in the future years, we will continue to grow our work to support you, the executive board. And so the goal here would be to have Phoebe ready if an advisory board member were to step down in the middle of 2026. We would be able to just go ahead and move to have Phoebe move back up into the advisory board and fill that position. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about the process or the current advisory board or the candidates for your consideration today.
Thanks, Dorsal. Are there any questions from the board for Dorsal?
Claire, I for some reason cannot find my hands up button. My screen is looking very interesting today, but I don't have a question, but I wanted to comment that I was able to sit in on a few of the interviews last second for Mayor Ralph. And I just wanted to highlight that they were all really, really excellent candidates. And I enjoyed the opportunity to hear from all of them. And it was really challenging. And especially the candidate for Multi-Service Center, that was, I think, probably a really challenging conversation to have to make that decision based on the fact that they weren't able to participate in a lot of the RFP reviews. But I would definitely agree with your recommendation that she makes a great board member, but it's hard, I know, to have one member not be able to sit in on that process. So just wanted to mention that. Thanks.
Thanks, Marina. Any other questions? Yes, Victoria.
Thank you. Similarly on that topic, for the multi, so are they anticipating that in the future they won't be applying for funds, or, you know, with her waiting to, since, you know, she hasn't been able to participate up to this point, is it beneficial? We feel like it's beneficial at this point to keep her at the ready, knowing that she may not be able to participate still.
I think that's a great question. I think it's a fair question. I don't anticipate that MSC will necessarily reduce the amount of potential applications in the future, but part of the consideration was that right now the majority, about 60-70% of the year at the advisory board is spent focused on the Housing Capital Fund applications. And as we've gotten better or more experienced with that, the hope is to potentially transition the advisory board into supporting the executive board in other ways while continuing to do those recommendations. And so that would then enable MSC or other potential organizations that would have to recuse themselves from the capital fund from still being able to participate kind of year round. But with so many qualified candidates and only so few slots, that really was kind of the deciding determinant.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? All right. So can I, with that, do I have a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-03, appointing the recommended candidates to the SKHHP Advisory Board for a term of 4 years to end January 1st, 2030?
So moved.
Second.
James moved, and who was the
I think it
second?
was Dennis.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the motion, say aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, the ayes have it. And So thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Dorsal to introduce the new advisory board members.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited for you all to have the opportunity to introduce themselves today, but then also begin working with you all next year. So I'll just go down not every candidate was able to make it today, but all of them did try. But just starting off, I wanted to have Sasha come off and introduce herself to the board.
And I'm really excited to be here and thanks for having me. I'm just going to introduce myself a little bit about myself. I'm here as one of the community, a community member who has lived experience as an immigrant. And also I had a previous experience working with low-income community, immigrant, and refugee as I served at the YWCA as a career navigator and SICE coordinator, transforming lives through employment. And I just accepted a job and started 3 weeks ago as a housing assistant for home ownership program with King County Housing Authority, still working with the same people, but instead of helping them with employment, helping them for housing stability. And I'm really happy to be here. If you have any question, I would be happy to answer any question. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we also have Mark here with us today.
Yes, hi, thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm Mark Cody, the Executive Director of Parkview Services, a nonprofit that creates affordable housing and homeownership opportunities for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I've worked in the field since 1999, and much of that time has been spent alongside partners here in South King County. At Parkview, we operate 13 homes and condos that provide affordable housing for 44 individuals with disabilities across SKIP cities. Our work is all about collaboration. In 2023, Parkview partnered with 6 small nonprofits to submit applications to the Washington State Housing Trust Fund. 5 received funding for their projects. That success belongs to everyone involved. I want to give a special shout out to Kathleen Hosfeld and Homeownership Community Land Trust. Our partnership on the Southern in Tukwila shows what's possible when we pool our resources and creativity. What excites me about serving on the SKIP Advisory Board is bringing the same cooperative spirit to a regional level. Housing challenges don't stop at city borders, and the best solutions come when we listen and learn from one another, especially from those affected, people with disabilities, low-income families, and BIPOC communities. Together we can expand access to both affordable rentals and pathways to homeownership, building stability, equity, and a sense of belonging across the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for this appointment. It's an honor to participate in this work. I joined King County Housing Authority in May as Vice President of Policy and Intergovernmental Relations. So my role on the advisory board is for the housing organization category, and really see my role as an advisory board member as congruent with KCHA's vision in supporting affordable housing for all residents of King County, quality affordable housing. South King County is particularly special for me. Previous to King County Housing Authority, worked in the education space for Puget Sound Educational Service District, leading the roadmap project work of the 7 school districts in South King County. So I'm very familiar with the communities, and it's a real pleasure to engage with the communities in this type of work as well.
Thank you, Jessica. And Ryan, I believe you're here with us.
I am. Hi, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate this appointment. I'm representing Habitat for Humanity of Seattle, King County, and Kittitas County. My background is I came from the private sector side. I represented single-family residential construction in Southwest Washington and then Portland for about 5 years. And then most recently, before I got to Habitat, I was representing the multifamily housing side. We did have affordable home ownership as part of our membership group, but now that's pretty much my full, I guess, focus now with Habitat for Humanity. I'm really glad to be on here. Previously, I served on the King County Affordable Housing Committee, and I know Dorsal and I had spoken a couple of times in my previous employment about getting me involved with SKIP, and I'm really glad and I'm really happy to be here. So I really appreciate it.
Glad to have you. And yes, we won't stop recruiting when we have the opportunity. Want to pause. I know Amanda was trying to join us. And I saw the SKIP panelist unmute. Amanda, is that you?
That is me. Thank you so much. My name is Amanda McElvaney from WaFd Bank in Auburn, Washington. So I'm very honored to be able to join and be part of the affordable housing process in South King County. I have about 20 years experience in banking, assisting people on the consumer and business side, residential home loans and business loans as well. My specialty prior to this year, when WaFd stepped away from home mortgages, was working in custom construction and then also with our Smart Start program, which was helping people with it was a higher loan to value loan program for people who were at under that 80% median income level. So it's really exciting to be able to be part of the affordable housing process for South King County. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I believe that's all of the advisory board candidates that could, or advisory board members that could make it today. So I'll turn it back over to you, Claire. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome new advisory board members. It is lovely to have you join us, and we cannot wait for your first meeting. Is it February, Dorsal? Because January is canceled.
Yes,
All
the
right.
first official one, February.
All right. Yeah, we look forward to working with you, and thanks again for showing up today and introducing yourselves to our executive board. We really appreciate it. And feel free to stick around for the rest of the meeting, but no obligation either. So, all right. All right, moving on to our next item of business, the Housing Capital Fund project application review. So SKIP is in our 4th year of funding affordable housing through the SKIP Housing Capital Fund. And since 2022, SKIP has committed to funding the development or preservation of 584 units of affordable housing in South King County. And the 2025 funding round opened in June and closed in September. We received 6 applications for funding, which we're going to be reviewing today under this agenda topic. And the SKIP Advisory Board began its evaluation of these applications at its October 2nd meeting and are scheduled to develop a funding recommendation at their next meeting. A funding recommendation is anticipated for the Executive Board's consideration at our next meeting on November 21st. So I'm going to share my slides with you. One moment, please. All right. All right. Can everyone see those slides? Great, thank you. So everyone here deserves recognition for the work that you've put in to get us to this point. As SKIP board members, your councils and community look to you to represent them here in this space. Collaborating across 12 elected jurisdictions to pool almost $3.5 million this year and over $14.5 million since we started pooling funds together 4 short years ago for the construction and preservation of affordable housing in the subregion is no easy feat, as you know. Since 2022, SKIP has committed funds to 7 projects that will support the rehabilitation or construction of almost 600 units of income-restricted housing. Thank you for being good partners in this work, for your engagement, and for your perseverance in moving the needle on affordable housing in South King County. I am continually impressed with the commitment of our board members and staff work group members in advancing this coalition's mission to expand and preserve affordable housing. And right now, our 2 newest member cities are actively engaged in conversations at their jurisdictions to establish what an ongoing contribution to the SKHHP Housing Capital Fund looks like. And I am grateful to the City of Maple Valley and CTAC for their efforts in strengthening this coalition and willingness to engage in those conversations. And I applaud those efforts, as I know those can be difficult conversations. So we have come a long way, and we know we have much farther to go. But taking a moment to celebrate where we are is an important exercise as well. So I just want to thank you all. I hope you feel proud of the work we've accomplished together. So all the information presented to you today is available in your agenda packet sent by me on Friday, October 10th at 11:24 a.m. And in the supplemental project summary memo sent by me yesterday at 12:37 p.m. So to briefly review our timeline, on October 2nd, the advisory board reviewed project applications we received for the Housing Capital Fund and received a summary presentation of each project. An evaluation form was provided to each participating board member based on criteria established in the Housing Capital Fund guidelines, which you, the executive board, adopted on June 13th, 2025. Each advisory board member was asked to rank how well each project met each of SKHHP's funding priorities and overall criteria. Participating board members were provided the complete application packet for each project submission. At the November 6th advisory board meeting, I anticipate a funding recommendation from the advisory board for your consideration at our next executive board meeting on November 21st. My goal is to aim to have you the recommendation memo included in your agenda packet by November 13th. In anticipation of next meeting, I'm here today to present a summary overview of each of the projects, so you have an idea of what you are considering when a recommendation from the advisory board comes forward at your next meeting. And also to provide the opportunity for you to ask questions about the projects. Assuming the advisory board develops a recommendation by your next meeting, you will consider that recommendation, and if you concur, you will adopt the formal recommendation. You may also modify the recommendation as a board. Once we have a recommendation from the executive board, we begin seeking concurrence from the cities that contribute funds to the Housing Capital Fund, which will be 9 cities this year. So here is a high-level summary of the 6 applications we received. So we have our first applications for projects located in CTAC and Federal Way, which advances the geographic distribution priority we strive for in this process. 3 new construction rental projects, 3 rehab preservation projects, 1 project supporting families exiting homelessness, 1 project supporting individuals with severe mental illness, 1 senior project, and 1 project targeting support for the African diaspora and refugee community. All of these projects reflect SKHHP's funding priorities in some way, which will make this year challenging, as it usually is. You'll see that the size of the projects vary greatly from 6 units to 284 units. The total funding requested is just over $11.4 million. This is up from $9.3 million last year and $8.6 million in 2023. And we have about $3.5 million available this year, down from $4.1 million last year and $6 million in 2023. However, about $2.5 million of the $3.5 million available this year is only eligible for those projects that qualify for House Bill 1590 funding, which has specific population requirements and must support households earning up to 60% AMI. We received approximately $9.3 million in requests that are eligible for this amount. Projects that aren't eligible for these funds total $2.1 million for a total of $922,000 available. You'll notice on the slide that all the project requests are eligible for substitute House Bill 1406 funds. This is to try and paint the picture for you early on about what the funding options are. So we're going to dive into the projects now. I'll present them to you in the order shown on the slide. Also important to note, all cities were notified of each project's intent to apply, and we did not receive any statements or letters of notification that would indicate a lack of support for any of these projects. As a reminder, the executive board defers to the cities where a project is located and wants to ensure they have an opportunity to express a lack of support, should that be the case. If that occurs, the project proposal does not move forward in the current funding cycle with SKIP. So at the end of the summaries, I'll also review construction start dates across the projects. So let's start. The Franciscan Apartments. This is a 3-story residential building with 38 one-bedroom rental units for seniors age 62 and over who earn up to 50% area median income, or AMI, located in Burien. The property was originally constructed in 1983 under HUD Section 202 Supportive Housing for the Elderly program and is in need of rehabilitation. The proposal consists of the rehabilitation of every unit, including new cabinetry, countertops, flooring, paint, low-flow plumbing fixtures, and energy-efficient lighting and appliances, rehabilitation of 4 ADA units bathrooms to comply with ADA standards, elevator repair, rehab of common areas, replacing a failing copper domestic supply line, roof replacement, and HVAC improvements, in addition to loan repayment. In addition, the ground floor will be reconfigured to create 1 additional ADA rental unit. The proposal uses a rolling rehab model for tenant relocation to minimize impacts to residents. Archdiocesan Housing Authority, or AHA, a Washington nonprofit, is the current owner and manager of the property. Catholic Community Services of Western Washington is the developer. The request is for $2.5 million in the form of a grant. SKIP 1590 funds could support the entire request and would be used to support repayment of an existing loan on the property, which must be repaid as part of the rehabilitation, and rehabilitation and construction, soft costs, and other development costs. So this shows the breakdown by unit size and affordability. 39 one-bedroom units at 50% AMI. So these tables are helpful to see where the projects hope their funding will come from and how much they anticipate the project costing. So this project applied to King County, this funding round, requesting $1.4 million. And then 9.6 million is the total development budget. Any questions about Franciscan Apartments? We can also take questions at the end. So if you don't get one in now and it comes up later, we'll address those as well.
Can I, sorry, my Zoom is it's not cooperating today either. And this might be just a very silly question. What sets this project apart and allows for its eligibility for 1590 grant or funds versus the new construction?
That's a great question. So the 1590 funds have pretty strict eligibility requirements. So there's a higher threshold that needs to be met. The first thing that needs to be met is the AMI level, so up to 60% AMI. And then it needs to be for a household that is a certain population. So in this case, it's seniors. So there's a handful of eligible populations that can be served with the $1590. Veterans, seniors, survivors of domestic violence, folks exiting homelessness or at risk of homelessness, behavioral health. That's the bulk of them.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and I should say 4 of the 6 projects are eligible for the $1590. So this is just one of them. Thanks. Any other questions about Franciscan or? All right, let's move on. The African Diaspora Cultural Anchor Village is a 129 unit new construction, 4% low income housing tax credit rental project with a mix of studios to 4 bedrooms for households earning 30 to 60% AMI, located in SeaTac. 55 units will be set aside for families with children and 13 units set aside for households with a physical disability. The project aims to respond to community members' desire for a central anchor for South King County's African diaspora, immigrant, and refugee community. 4 parcels represent the project across 2.2 acres acquired by ACHD in 2023. The parcels are located in SeaTac north of the Tukwila Light Rail Station. Existing structures include 2 houses and commercial structures to be demolished. The 7-story building will house residential units on levels 3 through 7, while the first 2 levels will include a community center event space, retail space, and office space for ACHD. So the project is a partnership between African Community Housing and Development, or ACHD, as you've heard me say, and Mercy Housing Northwest. The request to skip is for $3.5 million in the form of a deferred loan. SKIP 1590 funds could support the 13 units set aside for individuals with a physical disability. So you can see the unit breakdown by size and affordability here. And I should say that these tables are also included in the memo I sent yesterday. So you can see the project has some funding already committed, and they have some large funding requests into the public funders this year. They're asking King County for $9.5 million, and the Department of Commerce's Housing Trust Fund, they're requesting $12 million. In addition to the low income housing tax credit equity through WISHFIC, or the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. And the total development cost of this is $114 million. Any immediate questions about this one? All right, let's move on. St. Stephen's Housing Association Steelhouse. So Steelhouse is proposed as a demolition and new construction rental project of 6 3-bedroom townhomes for families exiting homelessness or at risk of homelessness who earn up to 50% AMI, located in Renton. The property was purchased in 2016 and includes a duplex built in 1943 operating as transitional housing. The transitional housing program will end before the project begins, so no relocation will be needed before demolition of the duplex. Most case management and supportive services will take place on site at the family's housing unit. So St. Stephen Housing and Way Back In merged in December 2024 and have become a single nonprofit organization under the name St. Stephen Housing. The boards of both organizations have combined, and former Way Back In board members who have assisted in the Steelhouse project's pre-development work will remain involved to guide expansion plans. This is the second time the project sponsor has applied to the SKHHP Housing Capital Fund for this project, and the City of Renton has committed $500,000 to the project since the previous application was received. The request to skip this year is just over $1.8 million in the form of a grant. Funds are requested for new construction, including demolition and soft costs. SKIP funds sourced through House Bill 1590 are eligible to be used to support the entire SKIP request. So here's the composition of the project. That's 6 3-bedroom units up to 50% AMI. So you can see here that they are only intending to apply to SKIP and the City of Renton as public funders, as this is a smaller project and potentially may get overlooked by the larger funders. This is a $3.8 million project. Any questions on Steelhouse?
Actually, Claire, I have, as a staff member, I have a question. What's the Apple Health and Home? I haven't heard of that before.
Yeah, that's the state program. And others on the call may have more familiarity with it, but oops, it is a form of public funding. Yes, James.
I might be able to add a little bit of context. It's so the Apple Health and Homes is what Frank Chop was writing about when he created the prescription for a home, with the idea being that if you're houseless, then you can get a prescription. So Apple Health and Homes money comes through Commerce and gives you the capital to buy or do other things to property, right? But then there's some particular stipulations around it with you have to work with a local medical provider essentially. So like in our area, it's WellPoint. Who you have to work with to make sure that the people who are getting housing there have got the appropriate like medical diagnosis to be there. It's a pretty smooth process. It sounds really complex when you first get into it. It's like, wow, I thought applying for funding was enough, but it takes a little bit of getting your head around a whole lot of alphabet soup and acronyms. But ultimately, it still is basically you get the state funding. WellPoint is the coordinating entity, but you still go through, in order to house people in those units, you still have to go through your local coordinated entry processes. So KCRHA is still involved in all the AHA units from the capital side. The operational side might be different.
That's super helpful. Thank you very much. And I see that Michaela put something in the chat, so thank you both.
Thank you. So I guess I would actually then correct myself and say that is a public funding as well, that this project is applying to. Thank you. Any other questions on Steelhouse? All right. So Steel Lake. So not to be confused with Steelhouse. So Mental Health Housing Foundation, or MHHF. Steel Lake Affordable Housing is the first phase of a two-phased new construction 20-unit rental project for individuals with severe and persistent mental illness with incomes at 30% and 50% AMI located in Federal Way. Phase 2 would add an additional 10 units for a total of 30 units. Phase 1 will consist of the construction of 4 two-bedroom units and 16 one-bedroom units. The project will be owned, developed, and operated by MHHF. A live-in property manager will occupy one of the one-bedroom units, and all maintenance needs will be addressed through a shared superintendent and maintenance staff. No services will be provided on site. The new building will be a 2-story walk-up with 10 apartments on each level. The site will include a community gathering space, shared laundry facilities, management offices, outdoor seating areas, and parking. A grocery store and other shops and amenities are located across the street, as well as access to public transit. MHHF acquired the parcels in December 2024. So the sponsor was organized and incorporated as a nonprofit in 1990 to support those living with mental illness in their efforts to live independently. The founders were concerned about the lack of affordable housing for individuals with serious and persistent mental illness in King County. The organization has grown to own 7 housing projects with a total of 90 housing units that vary from single-family shared homes to small apartment buildings. Residents live independently, receiving services from community behavioral health providers off-site, and this project would operate similarly. The request to SKIP is $1.5 million in the form of a deferred loan. SKIP funds sourced through House Bill 1590 are eligible to be used to support the entire SKIP request. SKIP funds are requested for acquisition, construction, and soft costs. Here is the breakdown of the units. Half the units will serve % AMI in 1-bedrooms. So you can see the project sponsor is actively applying to the other public funders with a request to King County at $2.4 million and to the Department of Commerce at $5.7 million. The project is a $11.8 million development. Any questions about Steel Lake? Yes, Victoria.
Thank you very much, Claire. I just have sort of a rolling question where at Steel Lake is they're applying for deferred loan, which is, and a few of them are, and then a few of them are applying for grants. When we're making recommendations, is like, are the loans, the deferred loans, are they weighted a little more than the grants, or how does that play out in the early stages? Is that?
Yeah, so from SKIP's perspective, there's really no difference because the loans that we provide typically are deferred, forgivable loans. So we're not actually gonna see funds come back to us.
Okay.
And so, and the reason I tell you it's a grant or a loan is because it's a part of our interlocal agreement requirements that when you take action on these items for recommendation, that we are saying the form of the funding for you. And so it's just a formality to make sure administratively we're accurately capturing how these folks would like their funds.
Thank you very much for the clarification.
Yeah. All right. Bellwether Housing, Renton Sage. So Bellwether Housing's Renton Sage Apartments consists of 284 rent restricted units across 29 buildings serving residents earning between 50 and 80% AMI in Renton. The property was acquired by Bellwether in 2022 with private funding from Amazon and a loan from Citibank to preserve naturally occurring affordable housing, or NOAA, as you've likely heard the acronym. The proposal seeks funding to replace the roofs on 6 of the property's 29 buildings, benefiting 52 households in this phase. And you can see the 6 buildings that they would like to replace the roofs on in dark gray here on the slide. So it's those lower left buildings. 4 building roofs have already been replaced, and 1 is currently being replaced. An application to the Department of Commerce's Housing Trust Fund was submitted this funding round to request additional funds to replace the remaining roofs on 18 residential buildings plus 2 leasing office buildings. The roof repairs must be completed before addressing other needs at the property. Bellwether has been in coordination with the King County Housing Authority to utilize their funding to do additional work, including energy efficient insulation, ventilation upgrades, and installation of heat pumps. Roof replacement is the largest expense of their rehabilitation needs. So Bellwether is a nonprofit developer and one of the region's largest affordable housing providers, with 8 projects and almost 1,500 units placed in service, supporting 5,000 residents. Renton Sage houses 1.6% of Renton's residents who earn up to 80% AMI, which is just over 17,000 folks in Renton. The request is for $1.2 million in the form of a grant. Funding would be used for demolition of the existing roofing and repair of decaying structural joists as needed to install new insulation, sheathing, and roofing. So this shows the composition of all 29 buildings in the complex. So this shows the original loans amounts for the acquisition and rehab when they originally purchased the property. So don't let that throw you off. For the skip rehab of the 6 roofs, the cost would be $1.2 million. All of these other numbers are funding something besides the roofs of the 6 buildings under consideration, but they chose to include all of it in their application. So just want to show that to you. You can see they're applying to Commerce for the $5 million to replace those remaining 18 buildings roofs as well. Any questions about Renton Sage? All right. Multi-Service Center Maple Lane Estates. So the multi-service centers, or I'll call them MSC, Maple Lane Estates contains 16 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom units across 4 buildings, serving households earning 30% and 50% AMI in Kent. The buildings were constructed in 1992, and MSC has owned the property since 1994. The project is proposed to include a comprehensive renovation of all 16 units. So MSC is a nonprofit developer and housing provider focused in South King County. The request to skip is for $922,000 in the form of a grant. Funds would support the replacement of siding, gutters, downspouts, railings, windows, sliding glass doors, front entry door replacement, recoding tenant decks, painting exterior HVAC alterations, regrading areas adjacent to siding, and replacement of exterior entry doors. So here is the breakdown by size and affordability of the property. Skip is proposed to be the sole funder on this project. So for those who have been with Skip for the last few years, you'll recall Skip has funded the rehabilitation of 2 MSC projects as the sole funder previously, Victorian Place 2 in Des Moines and the White River Apartments in Auburn. This funding round, public funders at the county and state levels are making additional funding available specifically for rehabilitation. So this project has other opportunities to pursue funding outside SKIP if needed. So any questions on Maple Lane? All right, so here is a comparison of the construction start dates for each of the projects. Steelhouse and Renton Sage are both ready to go early next year if they are successful with the SKIP award. Franciscan Apartments is ready by summer next year, assuming they are successful in their $1.4 million ask to King County and the SKIP request. Assuming all other funding commitments are made by others and their request to skip of our entire available funds at $3.5 million is awarded, the African Diaspora Cultural Anchor Village would be ready by fall of next year. Steel Lake and Maple Lane estates are much further out in their construction start dates beginning spring of 2027. So in terms of next steps, I'll follow up if there's any additional questions that come up that we can't answer here. I would follow up with you. The advisory board meets November 6th to deliberate and develop their funding recommendation to you. And at our next board meeting together on November 21st, you'll consider their funding recommendation. And after that, we go on tour to your council seeking concurrence on your recommendation. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Yes, James.
Yeah, I feel like maybe I have asked this before, but can you remind me about the timing of this? Because it seems like the decisions that the advisory board would be making they'll be making decisions before the big public funders, like the three biggest, right? Seattle, King County, and Washington State have delivered on the fall NOFA, right? So there's a cycle every fall where everyone tries to submit to all three of the biggest funders in the state at the same time. And for our folks, it would at least be King County and Washington State. Those all happen in the same cycle, and you tend not to get the responses to that in time for the November 6th deliberations. So I can't imagine that's an accident. Can you walk me through the logic on that again?
So the reason why the logic of us being a little different timing wise.
Yeah.
Yes, well, it's really because our process is so lengthy. And we have a lot of the public meeting process, right? Going through the advisory board and then coming to here to the executive board and then going to every funding city council to get approval before we can make funding awards. So we want to just make sure that we're in line with when those funding awards go out. And my understanding is ours are pretty similar to King County, even though they may be making decisions later than us. It's just the length of time. But I hope you'll be happy to hear that I do attend the King County Public Funders regional meetings. And so we are in close collaboration and communication about the projects. So that's very helpful to know, who's potentially funding what in those conversations. And, we do our best to collaborate and get on the same page as much as possible. And so, if there is information that can be helpful for the advisory board that comes out of those conversations, I do my best to share those out to the advisory board. And that'll be the case for the next November 6th meeting as well.
Okay, I just want to make sure our advisory board understands the timing of that. They're making a decision, and if they see that someone's applied and they say, oh, good, they'll get the county funding or they'll get the state funding, that that's still up in the air at the time that they're considering that, it is still up in the air, right? And so it feels like that would affect, especially if we or the advisory board are trying to figure out, how can we get some project over the hump, over the very last bit here, right? And it turns out that they don't get LIHTC this year, that delays the project by a year right there, right? So I know that there's a county group that meets and chats through these things and tries to provide as much information without making commitments as possible. So I guess we'll just have to trust that process is not going to let these get out ahead of each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and honestly, that is why the public funders why we've been doing this work since I've been here, is tight communication as possible so that no one is getting out in front of the other. Because we all want to address the pipeline collaboratively, right? And get on the same page about what projects we're all going to support. Yes, thank you. And that's good context, I think, for this group as well, James, so I appreciate you asking that question. Other questions from the group? I should also mention that sometimes we are the first funder on a project. So to James's point, like sometimes we are getting out ahead because we feel strongly about a project and we are hoping that others will come on board as well. Sometimes we are the last funder in because some projects just need that little extra bump. Sometimes we are the sole funder because the project has applied to bigger funders and not been successful for a variety of reasons. But so want to say that we don't have those hard and fast rules about, you know, which stage we come in. It's just, it depends on the advisory board and the executive board's preference and interest of that funding year. Any other questions before we move on? All right. All right, well, thank you. Let's move on to the next order of business, which is the SKIP 2025 Legislative Forum Debrief. And I am going to just jump right in. So you should have received a memo from me included in your agenda packet email for this meeting on Friday, October 10th at 11:24 a.m. And for background, SKIP held its first legislative forum on September 19th, 2025, in person at the Tukwila Community Center during the Executive Board's regularly scheduled monthly meeting. This was at the direction of the SKIP Executive Board, who expressed a desire to convene state legislators to uplift and amplify the good work of SKIP as a unified, coordinated, and collaborative voice. Additionally, the purpose was to show South King County's strength on the topic of affordable housing, to demonstrate the power of the SKIP coalition to state legislators. The event was well attended by 7 members of the Washington State Legislature, 2 legislative assistants to members of the legislature, a governor's office representative, 9 executive board members, 2 advisory board members, 7 staff work group members, SKIP staff, and 3 other supporting staff. So this agenda item is to provide the opportunity to assess how well the forum met its intended purpose and to create space for that discussion. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Typically the chair would call on people and facilitate the conversation, but I will do that. So would love to hear your thoughts about I would say really any of these questions if something comes to mind. And I know that many of you were able to come. Some of you weren't able to come, but you heard about it from either your staff work group or your alternate that attended. So feel free to share your thoughts in that context as well. But would love any feedback or answers to the questions listed on your slide. And I'll just raise your hand and I'll call on you. And I'll go ahead and read the questions too, because I know sometimes folks are taking these meetings on their phones and it's hard to see. How well did the legislative forum meet the intended purpose? Is there a highlight or experience from the event you would like to share? And would you change anything next time? Victoria.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So I unfortunately was not able to attend, and I want to thank Christina from Covington for filling in, and I really appreciate that. And so I spoke with Matt Torpy. He's our community development manager, and he was here, or he was at the meeting, and he had some good things to say about it. Really felt like it had a good feeling. Loved the location. Heard that everybody really liked it there, liked the snacks, like the whole feeling of it. One thing that he said that he would change is that he thought that the roundtable topics, those particular ones, might have been better suited for just part of the presentation, because they were kind of things that we were telling them about. There wasn't, he found it difficult to have something to discuss about it, if that makes sense. That the length of time that was allotted was maybe a little bit longer than they needed. But he definitely said that having the roundtable discussion he thought was very beneficial, and that the format of the whole meeting was well executed, but that's one change he would make.
Thank you. Christina.
Yes, thank you. My personal opinion, it was a very well executed event. I will say maybe for the amount of people that did show up, the room was perhaps just a little bit too large, and I wouldn't say we got lost in it, but a little bit more of an intimate feel would have been nice. We did have the honor of speaking with the governor's senior policy advisor on housing. And I just thought that was wonderful. What other opportunity will we get to really speak to those folks and come face to face? And, we did go off script a little, and just some really good, he asked for what's the most pressing thing for each city, right? Well, for Skip, but and obviously we can only speak for ourselves, but in a coalition like that, I think we are speaking for each other as well. It was wonderful. It's a good learning opportunity for us. This is our first forum, legislative forum. I think we shouldn't be afraid to have more of these. Maybe they should be annual, maybe twice a year, but and some of the legislators that, for instance, I was to call two of them. One was able to come, the other one was simply out of town, and she would have loved to have been there. Maybe we can do another one again, like I said, when we feel it is right. But it was great. It was great to get in front of them and speak for our cities. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. And I heard from Nick as well that he really appreciated the opportunity to come and thought it was great as well. So
And I had no idea how quiet I was either. I thought I was screaming, but hey.
Oh,
you know kind of joke now.
No, I know. We did hand Christina a microphone.
So loud.
The room was big. The room was big. No, all good. Thank you. Other folks' thoughts, feedback. James.
Yeah, I think I agree with what Victoria was saying from her staff, just as a thing to change maybe. What I noticed at our table when we were meeting with the state electeds was kind of like, okay, this is really good to hear. We did not know about this much good work. What is your ask? And that's really where they were expecting the conversation to go. And really, it was kind of like, what the ask is that you learn what we just told you. That was the ask. That was it. It's kind of, I think there was a little bit of, sure, like most electeds, you sometimes walk into these rooms expecting an ask, and you're a little surprised when you're like, okay, get to the point where you ask me to do something. And I feel like there was a little bit of that at our table for some of the session. But I know that also requires that we, as a really diverse set of cities, have some kind of simple, solid, unified ask, right, to put forward. So finding some kind of a discussion topic that, this is our first one. So actually, I don't think it was the wrong thing to do. I think it gave us a little bit of that taking the temperature of, are we, do people know anything really about us beyond the fact that there maybe is something in existence, just because the number of things that state reps have to look at with all the different cities in their districts. So I'd say let's try to get some more, try to get a little bit of for year two, we've tested the waters, and let's see the places where we can really jump in a little more on the discussion with the state electeds. And maybe even one thing I was thinking is have them bring stuff they're going to be working on or thinking about working on so that we as a coalition can hear from them, or we as individuals at the roundtables can hear and maybe see where we can put ourselves in, or I think there's just an opportunity. But I think that, the highlight always is getting to see all these folks at the state level. You realize there's quite a few folks who are invested in the success of SKIP, whether they know it or not, or whether they knew it or not. It's a pretty wide geographic distribution, and because of the density of King County compared to the balance of the state, we actually have quite a few votes we can lobby for when we're trying to get something passed that'll benefit the cities that we're all responsible for. So that was a highlight for me, just to see how many folks, that we didn't by any means get everyone in the room who was an elected, who in a SKIP jurisdictions or SKIP district jurisdiction. So it was a highlight for just to see to remind ourselves that if we all do have something we can come together around, we actually can probably get quite a few votes in favor of something.
Thanks, James. Other thoughts, other feedback? Eric and Brian, I would love to hear your thoughts, because you both were pretty active in the kind of planning.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Development.
I think it was a really good opportunity. We had a really rich conversation at our table. In fact, our table decided to rebel and not rotate because we didn't want our conversation to be interrupted. So, I think good relationships were formed as a result of the conversation. Really benefited hearing from others and hearing their perspectives. And I think the important outcome for us perhaps was other electeds being able to hear from one of our advisory board members and for myself as another board member, and I think just gain a point of view that's maybe different from the typical orbit that they're in, and just generally be aware of the good work that's being done.
Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was good. I had one rotation where with respect to the elected official, they talked a little long, and so the other members of the table didn't talk a whole lot. So that was, that's difficult to control, but it might be helpful to lay some ground rules ahead of time next time, where try to give everyone an equal opportunity to speak their mind. But overall, I thought it was good.
I like that, ground rules. Anyone else? Jean, you were there. Do you have any feelings on how it went?
No, I think it went well. The only thing, and I don't know if this would be under what would you change for next time, is I was disappointed that my particular district, none of the three representatives showed up. I was wondering if, we might take a look at, would there be a better timing to move this?
Mm-hmm. Do you have thoughts on that? Like a season, or like a day, or the time of day?
I'm not sure. I can check back with the 30th district delegation and find out. All three had it on their agendas, or on their calendars, and I was, rather surprised that they missed it, and so I can circle back with them and find out if there is a better timing or something. But I was wondering if anybody else across the group thought that had any thoughts about the timing.
Yeah, Do folks, yeah, what do folks think about the timing? I mean, it was during our regular board meeting. It was on a Friday in September from 1 to 2:30, which works for us, right? Because you already have it on your calendar.
Gene, I'm wondering, do you mean timing like within, are Fridays the right thing? Is that time on a Friday, or is this the right time of the year for this kind of elected?
They, you know, from what I was understanding is they were just getting back into legislative calendar issues. So, yeah, I don't know, you know, would we be, if we moved it to a different month, would we be you know, dealing with vacation time or whatever, downtime or anything else. So it'd be interesting to hear if whether it was, as Claire indicated, you know, it was good timing for us, but do we need to make it good timing for them?
Yeah, if you're willing, yeah, I would love to hear what your delegates' feedback was. Yeah.
So we had 7 out of 10, was that what it was?
We had 9. Oh, you're talking about folks that came?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was, what did I say? Let me find it. 7. 7, and I think we had 10, yeah, RSVP.
Yeah, so 7 out of 10. I think that's a percentage that is pretty good any time of year. So I don't know if changing the date would do a whole lot to get 80% or 90%. I think that's a pretty good return on the invitations, because I know they're busy. I know that they get invitations like this all the time. So I think that's a pretty good attendance rate.
James?
I can circle back with the 30th delegation and find out
It's not
what their
7 out of
thoughts
10.
were.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks, James. Okay, James?
It's not 7 out of 10 invitations though, right? It's 7 out of 10 RSVPs, which I still think is a good rate, like with state electeds. I mean, our total number of state electeds in this is like what, 10 districts that we overlap with, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like 30.
About 30
So
folks, yeah.
Yeah, we had like 7 out of 30 who actually got invited.
Well, 30 were invited, you know, kind of from staff, from you all with your outreach, and you know, that's a little challenging too, right? How do you reach the folks, get it on their calendar? And I think one of the strategies that worked, we had a state rep show up that hadn't RSVP'd, but because it was on their calendar, it was great. So that technique added a +1, and you know, that'll be something we definitely do again. So I love that. Yeah. Other thoughts from folks? I think we've heard from most folks. I think James Alberson, I know you were at the forum for representing Renton as the alternate.
Yeah,
Did
I was, but as you know, Claire, I had a brain freeze and I arrived late because I forgot it was in person. And so I joined the conversation. I mean, I mimic everything everybody said. I will, and if Angie, if you're still there, I know you were at the table, Angie Matthias. I mean, if you want to chime in on any feedback, you know, feel free. But you know, I thought it was a good conversation for what I you know, for what I was a part of, and you know, they certainly listened well, and I think took some things away. But Angie, would you add some things to that?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to, James. I thought it was well worth the time. I mean, to me, the goal was for them to learn about SKIP and to learn about the good work that's being done in South King County, and that there is need for that continued work, and that it's a little bit unique from like East King County and Seattle and stuff. I don't know that they necessarily knew that, and I think that they do now, at least the folks that were there. I sat at 2 different tables with just 1 elected at each table. But they were good conversations, and they listened and they participated, and they know about SKIP now, and they believe that that SKIP's doing good work. So to me, it was mission accomplished and well worth the time and energy that I know went into planning and executing it.
Thanks. Thanks, Angie. Thanks, James. All right, last call for feedback or thoughts. It looks like all the board members that were there have provided input, so I appreciate you all. Thank you for humoring me in that activity. It's very helpful. And we are close to the end of our meeting here. Let me double check. All right, so that brings us to updates and announcements, and I just have a few small handfuls to share with you. So first of all, the King County Council Committee of the Whole met on October 6th and took action to adopt the 2026 SKIP work plan and budget. And I was able to provide a brief update on all the successes to date that you all have been helping move forward in this collaboration here. And then Maple Valley study session, October 20th. So the Maple Valley City Council is meeting this coming Monday night over study session to discuss options for pooling funds for SKIP's Housing Capital Fund. So if you're interested in these conversations of your neighbors, I encourage you to check it out. Contracting update. So we are in active contracting development on 3 projects. The Kent Multicultural Village, the White River Apartments, and Burien Miller Creek for their 2nd award. And Vice Chair Ralph and Mayor Schilling from the City of Burien and myself attended the groundbreaking ceremony for the Burien Family Housing Project on September 19th. And we posted a few pictures on our social media of that. But I do look forward to more of those for us all in the future. And then I mentioned in your September agenda packet email, but wanted to make sure everyone was aware of this change. So unfortunately, we have been requested to no longer attach materials to our regular meeting invitations by Auburn's IT department, as it requires substantive data storage. So I apologize for any inconvenience that this may cause. We will continue to post the content of the agenda packet email in the calendar invitation, minus the attachments, and refer to the date and time that the email was sent, so that you can easily find what you're looking for in your inbox from us. And then I will be attending the Affordable Housing Finance Live Conference in Chicago, November 17th through 19th, as I've done the past 2 years. And I will have my work cell on me should you need anything during that time. And that's all I have for you all. Does the group have any updates or announcements that you would like to share? All right. Seeing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Who is the second?
Victoria.
Thank you. All right. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 All right. All those opposed? All right. The meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you all so much for your patience, and your engagement. I appreciate you all.
Well,
lovely
Chair,
weekend.
thank
Have a
you.
good weekend.
Good
Go, Mayor.
day, Claire.